to build a community. If you've been a part of TOC for some time, you know that we have a great community feel. And if this is your first time with TOC, then you will absolutely feel the community through today's webinar and future events. So we're glad to continue building the community of TOC, again, in support of learning and development for the federal government and furthering our education and professional development for our learning and development colleagues. A few pieces of information about our program year this year, the 2022-2023 program year. It includes half-day in-person workshops, topic-based series, webinars, and partnership events. So we're pleased to bring that all to you this year, including our 2023 Annual Institute, which I'm very excited about, in Ocean City, Maryland. That will be held April 30th through May 3rd. Registration is already available for that event, and we are pleased to share that that event will be sponsored by Graduate School USA. So we hope that you will join us for our annual institute in May. And for more information, please feel free to contact info@trainingofficers.org. We want to give a huge shout out and thanks to Graduate School USA, who has signed on this year to be a program year sponsor and our 2023 Annual Institute Diamond sponsor. We're very excited to have them as a part of our program for the year and for the Annual Institute. If your organization is interested in becoming a sponsor or partner with TOC, you can also reach out to info@trainingofficers.org to get more details about those opportunities available. Our next event is coming up on October 25th. That will be our first half-day in-person session from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. The title of that session is DEIA, From Strategic Planning to Plan in Action. So we're excited to bring you together with learning leaders to really discuss how we can take our DEIA plans from the plans that we've put together to actually enacting them in our workforce. This event is open to registrants only, but there are also opportunities for non-registrants to participate. They can contact us at info@trainingofficers.org for that information, and you'll see the location there at the bottom of the screen. Registration details will be forthcoming to sign up to participate with us for this event, and you have the option to participate either in person or virtually. And then our event after that, we want to get social with you. Sponsored by Graduate School USA, we will have a networking event at their DC office in Southwest, and you can see the address there on your screen. Registration is open for that on our website, so please do visit our website to register for that event. We're excited to be able to meet in person and just socialize, network with one another, and continue to foster that TOC community. And now I'd like to introduce our speakers for today. Ms. Karen Gray. Karen Gray is the founder of MK Results LLC, a DEIA consultant, barrier breaker, and author of The Road to Equity, the 5 C's to construct an equitable classroom. Her work centers on creating equitable spaces and equipping leaders with practical strategies to set all stakeholders up for success. Karen brings her experience as a student, Texas public school teacher, parent, assistant principal, entrepreneur, and DEI advocate. And then Ms. Fatima Dantas is the founder of Spade University, where she offers an alternative choice for personal awareness and character development to achieve natural alignment in the game we call life. For more than a decade, Fatima has taught her techniques and principles to hundreds of people worldwide, facilitating stronger intimacy in families, marriages, classrooms, and community. So I'd like to turn it over to our hosts for today, Karen and Fatima.
Awesome, awesome. Welcome. Let me share this really quickly. You know, technology. And we want to thank you guys for having us today. I'm very excited to be back. I just want to thank TOC for creating a platform to that's really embedded throughout your mission. So I want to thank you for providing us this opportunity. Let's see, I think we are there. Perfect. Can everybody see that screen? I want to make sure we're good. There. Awesome. Awesome. Well, welcome Again, thank you for having me back. We're ready to dive in on the road to equity. This presentation is all about how we can put all hands on deck. We come from different backgrounds, lived experiences, and so we hope this is a tool for you to apply back at your organization to set it up for success. So again, Lanera, thank you for having us. I want to, oh, that clicker is quick. Look at technology. I want to welcome you again. My name is Karen Gray. I am the CEO and founder of MK Results LLC. My passion began as a student growing up in spaces where not a lot of people looked like me or saw my differences as a value. And so I wanted to further initiatives to set organizations up for success and create a seat for everybody at the table. And so with that, MK Results LLC was born, and I've been on the road to equity, this journey, partnering with others and furthering diversity, equity, and inclusion in organizations, schools, businesses, and sharing that message across the globe. I've partnered here with Fatima, and I'll let her introduce herself. Fatima?
Yes, thank you so much, Karen, for even having me. I'm one of those people that she's partnered with, and we do have such a diverse background coming into equity and getting started with it. Wow, and presenting about it with you guys. So this is exciting. My background, though, I started with equity way in my childhood. So just having like the diverse upbringing, diverse parents and religions and all kinds of things. So even though I looked like the people that I grew up with and was around, but internally was my issue, just not feeling like the same as everyone else, not thinking the same, not having the same values and that. So I always thought that equity should be something deeper and broader. So we do have all of these different backgrounds. So I'm really excited about this presentation today with Karen, who is just amazing. So thank you guys for having both of us here ready to get started.
Yes. And you'll learn a little bit more about this during our presentation, but I am a King of Diamonds, and Fatima.
I'm a Six of Spades. So we
Yes.
will combine both of these. I know it's a new tool, so I hope everybody is open-minded, since we are talking about diversity. So having a diverse mindset when it comes to the gamification of tools in the workplace or the education system, just everything. So exciting.
Let's dive on in.
Yes.
So looking at today's objectives, we want to give you some tools to assess where you're at in your organization, that progress. So we'll equip you with some of those tools today. We want to develop some essential skills that will promote a culture of belonging, that inclusion, that collaboration in your organization. And then we want to further what those commitments are by defining them, making sure they're long-term, they're sustainable, because we've heard so much about what DEI is, what it isn't, looking at the history of DEI and where it was from even just the past 3 to 4 years. There's now a new executive order opening it back up for DEI to be really seen as the tool to help create successful organizations where it can drive innovation, creativity, and that it can grow not just the organization, but we're all about growing people. And knowing some of these universal truths that we are all different, yet fundamentally connected, we can start getting to really some of these, or unearthing some of these challenges that are barriers that limit us from being productive or connecting with others. So again, by showing up here, by being that person advancing DEI in your organization, and then utilizing tools that the TOC has provided, these are ways that we can support you on your journey. So we say buckle up, get ready, and thank you, because this is admirable work. It's tough, it's challenging, and I want in the chat, if we could really quickly see, if you are an HR person and you've been designated this as an additional task, put a 1 in the chat box, and put a 2 in the chat box if this is an actual paid position. They've carved out some resources. There's some incentive there. It's not a volunteer position. So put a 1 if you're HR and you're kind of tasked with this to further DEI within your organization, or put a 2 if it is something that they've invested in. There's an actual title behind it. There's some resources. There's some funding for these initiatives. Okay. And so most, and what we've seen across the country is DEI has become a buzzword, right? It's become popular. It went from kind of being suppressed based on laws and how people were feeling within or their own opinions about it. But we have to start getting to what DEI really is. And this is encompassing everyone. And it's not something that one person can do solely. And a lot of HR have been tasked with furthering DEI. And so we want to be able to equip you with tools, because that's not essentially the expertise. What you're doing a lot of, you're probably doing DEI without even realizing it, but how we can become more intentional, because that wasn't necessarily what our objective was. It's something that sometimes people feel is added, and we don't want it to be something that's added. We want to be able to set you up for success with what you need. So now where we're at with DEI, we can continue that because people have seen the value, and we hope that today we can help you bring that back to your organization and inspire others to be a part of DEI in some way in their organization or department.
Right.
Yeah. There we go. So a couple of core agreements that we'll talk about just going into conversations, spaces, when you talk about D&I, it can be uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar to us, but we just ask you to stay engaged, right? Speak your truth, because that's where we learn. We want to create a space where each person can share, especially if it's an experience or a challenge you're experiencing. How are you supposed to solve that without having a place to talk things through and process? So we want to hear from you. We also want you to experience discomfort, because if you're going back to your organization, asking people to grow and be uncomfortable, we have to do that ourselves. And so we have to practice saying, I don't know enough about that, or ask ourselves, why is that making or causing discomfort? Maybe I need to explore that a little more, right? And then expect and accept non-closure. With diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging, this is a journey and not a destination. And so we're constantly learning every day. If you look in the news, there are some challenges that organizations face because they're unsure of how to handle some of these issues. So we have to be proactive in our approach so that we're not just reacting from a place of hurt, but we want to heal and move forward, because we know trauma has happened personally in our world that's impacted everybody. So we're learning and we're on this journey together. And so that's the most important thing to stress. We also just want to say confidentiality, throwing that in there. because it is a sensitive topic, we always encourage our participants of our courses to share the learning by all means, but be respectful if someone shares something personal. It's okay to share that learning, but to respect that safe space that we've created for them to share so that we can all learn and grow together. Fatima?
You just said that perfectly. Coming from like two different worlds and backgrounds, seeing that this is exactly where we meet. I know you guys have seen like the symbols and the cards so far. That's really my background. That's the game that I use to help connect people. So everything just being in alignment with the heart, right? Like she said, like Karen said, so staying engaged. There's a transparency there that I want to address, like our feelings. So a part of staying engaged is our feelings and sharing what our ideals are, right? If we don't hear the ideas, we don't care about how our employees feel or the people that we work with and associate with, usually from 8 hours a day, we're setting ourselves up to be compromised in some way and to quiet quit. We're going to stop engaging because we're not hearing enough of what we like or hearing things that are different. So if we're just hearing the same things, then how do we stay engaged? So hopefully after this session, we're able to provide you with something that helps you to stay more engaged. But just for the sake of this session, stay engaged by asking us questions, raising your hand. If there's anything that we say that does not make sense, we're here for the questions. Speak your truth. I'm a very transparent person, so I know I'm going to be saying some things that may or may not be of interest to you, but it's still my truth, and I will want to listen to you guys speak your truth as well. And the experience of discomfort, like I'm coming from a place where my background is not in education, so I felt discomfort like coming in, but I was like, okay, this is diversity. This is what it is. So we all having different backgrounds and different value systems and beliefs and principles could be the source of that discomfort. But again, we're just going to be transparent about all of that. And the expectation is that we keep it here, and we just keep to a minimum with whatever we share that we don't want out there or want everybody to know. Just kind of know that it's a safe space, but just be mindful when you're sharing it, because we don't know with technology. But yeah, so this is good. These are core agreements.
Yes, and we also have dropped in the chat. TOC will be emailing out after this presentation that guide, but we added it in the chat so that you can have that resource to follow along, take notes, jot down your questions, and to engage with us so that we can get the most out of this presentation.
Yes.
All right. So diversity, equity, and inclusion, belonging. I love this quote by James Baldwin, and it says, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." And so when we look at the challenges in our workplace, when we start peeling back the layers and get to the root of the issue, and we look at equity, sometimes that's addressing policies and practices that are counterproductive to our mission and having to do some realignment, which can be tough. But if we don't acknowledge that there's an issue, address it, and do our due diligence, our research, reaching out and inviting people to the table, so that if we have to rearrange, relearn, unlearn some things, we can do that together on that journey of understanding why we're doing it. The purpose of creating a space where all can show up and be their authentic selves. And so if we want growth, we have to truly understand where we're at and where we want to be. And are we ready to face some of those challenges, those uncomfortable truths that, at sometimes we didn't know they were a blind spot, but other times it brings it to our attention to say, this is a problem, there's a pattern, and we can empower each other to create organizations where there are more equitable outcomes. So we've got to do that work.
Great quote.
Yes.
And
And
so,
so approaching DEI, go ahead.
yeah, so approaching DEI, and I'm just going to highlight the 4 suits because, in the deck of cards, there's only 4 suits, right? The heart, the club, the diamond, and the spade. And we'll get into that more as the presentation unfolds. But so knowing and understanding your interest in diversity, knowing and understanding what your actual interest is from a personal level when it comes to equity and inclusion is going to increase your chances of understanding DE&I, right? And then if you understand it, you have a better chance at valuing it and making it a principle. And so after you can value it and you believe it and you trust it, right? Now you can do something about it. So when you approach it, we want to know, like, if you guys want to put in a chat, like, what is your interest in DEI? And what do you already understand about DEI? Or maybe something that you don't understand about DEI. And what do you value about it? What do you trust about DEI? And then what can you do about DEI? So that's an activity if you guys want to. You could just take one of them and, just tackle that. Like and it could be the interest, what you understand, what you believe and trust about DE&I, or what's something that you do already when it comes to DE&I in your corporation. And you guys can put that in the chat. But our approach to DE&I is so important because that's going to determine what our outcome is. So if we approach it, we're not really interested in it, we don't really understand it, we don't trust it or believe it, then how much can we truly, honestly do with DEI? How can we bring it, to life? So you value the ability, Lynera, to bring people together and really show the value of each member of the community. And that's great, see? And sometimes we don't arrive at the value of something. It all happens in its order. So by you saying, hey, I value this, program DE&I, that's telling me you understand it and you also have an interest. You can't really jump to doing something about it. We all know people who do things and we can tell that they're not interested or that they don't understand it and they don't really believe it or trust it, but they're just doing it, right? So, and you have an interest in learning more, how you can be more inclusive. Okay, yeah, and see, that's good. So now, because you do have that interest, Shanda, you're gonna be more motivated to try to understand and do some research, right? So you get to the point to where, okay, I believe it, I could trust this, now I'm gonna do something about it. So having a strong interest is key when it comes to approaching diversity, equity, and inclusion. So, and meeting other people where they are with their interest. And maybe just having like a small group and saying, okay, what's your interest, and comparing that with your interest and bringing it all together. That could be another way to, include the interest of other people, because granted, we're not all interested in the same parts of DE&I, right? So thank you guys for sharing. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I think those are important things to highlight, not only about ourselves with DI, but where other people in your organization, as you are tasked as an advocate to go back into your organization, train other people, motivate and inspire them to get on the DEI train and understand the value of it. You have to start, where is their interest at? Do they understand what DEI is? Have you articulated that in a way that everybody can communicate? This is what it means to our organization. And do they understand the value of why you're investing in this? That this isn't something else to check off our box, something else to do, that there is true value and meaning and purpose behind these initiatives. And then that, like Fatima stated, that's going to cause people to act, to do, to motivate them to move from just awareness about it now into action. And then we can begin holding ourselves and our organization accountable, because we see the value, we understand it, we were a part of that process.
Right.
And so with the roadmap, and this is also in the participant guide for you to follow along, we look at starting at phase 1. We have to identify, define what DEI means. There's a lot of propaganda out there about DE&I. There's also some mistruths, misconceptions. People have different feelings about it. And sometimes it's been used in a way, in a narrative that fits personal people's agendas. And because all of us think differently and experience the world differently, we're all bringing that knowledge with us to our organization. So organizations must have clear and definitions of what DEI means, what it means to our organization. So that's that interest, Fatima, right?
Right, right. And also, there's a parallel. So if you don't identify it, now you're going to create a disinterest, right? But if it is identified and it's cleared, then you will increase the interest of the DE&I program that you're implementing. So what are you doing to make it interesting to your employees or the people that you're working with? So definitely.
And then phase 2, we'll look at inform. So now that we understand DE&I, we're going to look at developing that DEI strategic plan, looking at that, the work that you have done, continue to do, and how you'll check your progress. And that's that intelligence piece.
Right. The intelligence part comes after you have properly identified something. If you can't identify it, then how can you really reach like a conversation on what's working, what's not working, what's to include, and what do we need to take out of it? So at this level, it's all about how we intelligently express our interest or disinterest in DE&I and write it all out, come up with a strategy to develop, and just know that it's always developing, right?
Yeah.
And then that takes us into phase 3.
Yes. Phase 3, you can finally start that inclusion piece, including others, because you can determine the stakes, identify the resources that you need to help achieve your goal and set people up for success. So there you're creating that value.
Right. And you get to decide, like, at this level, what's it going to cost me? Because stakes it can be a high stake thing. It might mean I need to rehire or move people around who are comfortable in this position. And so, or we might need to include other people. So, what is the stakes of that though? Does it mean I'm going to lose someone, or does it mean that I need to spend more money and, invest in resources that we need to implement our plan? So, and that moves us into phase 4, which is implement.
Yes. So taking the action, now that we've become aware of this personal organization, develop that value, we're going to say, how can we make this come alive in our organization? We're not just talking the talk, but we're walking the walk. And we've got to create a strategic plan, just like we do with any other goal within our organization. We have to be intentional when it comes to DE&I. And that leads to inspiring, changing our organization in a way that has a positive impact on performance, productivity, and people professionally, right? They're showing up, they feel safe, they feel that they can share without fear of retaliation. And there's this culture of inclusion that everybody's part of the team. So I want you to, based on this roadmap, put where you currently are in that DEI journey with your organization. Is it more you're still working to identify? Is it still that gathering that information? Are you in phase 3 of the inclusion piece, raising those stakes? Or are you feet to the ground implementation and you're kind of revising, re-looking at things, editing that plan so that you can make sure it is successful and sustainable? So go ahead and put a 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can just kind of see where you're traveling on the map, because we want to be able to navigate you and support you in this journey.
Okay, 2. Informing, because this road will definitely lead to more confidence more bold actions, more proactivity inside of an organization, because like you said, everyone now on the team has said what they're interested in. They have let us know what they are, what they're intelligent, which part of the intelligence they understand and they value it, and they're actually taking action. So now people are moving more confidently, and that actually is inspiring. So when you see someone who's confidently moving throughout the organization, they're inspiring. Inspiration makes a greater impact. So this is cool, this road. And another thing that helps, like, this is the perspective. This is something that take you deeper into making the impact that you want, is by understanding the different types of employees and how they're going to look at it. So we get key insight with the cards that help you to determine like who in your organization has like diverse ideas. That's the D. So at the bottom of this slide, you'll see the D, E, and I for each column. And so on the left, you have like the magnifying glass. This is how people are perceiving it, or your potential, like even you as a boss or HR rep, you actually have a perspective too, but you want to make it clear, you want to bring it out and make sure that everyone understands that if you do identify with like the heart personality, you're going to look at the diversity perspective, or you're going to have a perspective that is diverse in the fact that you're looking at ideals and also the interest. So you're gonna see like, or you're gonna be more interested in the company's interest in your ideas. And you want to know on the equity level, does this company have the resources to assist me in what I need to reach my goals? Are they interested, or are they interested in creating activities that increase my interest? Because this is all the heart level, right? It's the interest, it's the ideas, it's how I feel in the environment. And on the inclusion level, you want to know if your ideas are going to be considered, right? Has this organization considered like my ideals? I know the company has its own vision and mission, but maybe I have something that could help. Will my idea be included in the plan? And if not, I stand the risk of like quiet quitting, because I'm giving an idea to the company and the HR department. I'm saying, hey, could we include this? Could we include this? But I feel like my contribution is not, needed here at this establishment. So the clubs they won't see it that way. Like if you're a club, then you'll have a diverse philosophy, or you might have a diverse understanding, or you might understand it in a way that hearts may not. They're looking at the interest of it and feeling their way through the organization, whereas your clubs are like, where's the information? Does this company have resources that are going to help me to understand what I'm doing here, my why? And so if the company doesn't include anything, or haven't considered helping this particular employee help them reach their goals, then that person is going to start to withdraw, right? They have a different understanding and a view of how the company could be run, or is their input important here? Is their opinion important here? And then you have the diamonds, right? And I'm just kind of breezing through it just a little bit, but you guys know to like contact us if you want to go deeper. And so like your diamond employees, they care about the values and the principles when it comes in terms of diversity. And when it comes to equity, are there opportunities within the company or resources that can help me improve on my skills and be promoted and do other things? This is what diamonds are. Initially, that's just what they want when they come into the company. And are their values compatible with the employee? And if not, how can we reach a part where we are including, maybe I don't value everything that this person, as I'm speaking from an employer, but maybe I don't value everything that this employee can do, but what is something that I can, meet them halfway on, right? To include them. And then on the last level, the spade, right? So these people have very strong will and they have a very strong capacity to do. and carry out the will of the company. But sometimes, a person will stop doing or withdraw from doing if the company doesn't have resources that will assist them in what they need to reach the goal, right? So if they're doing something and they have a will and they want to do more, or they have the capacity to do more, then what does the company do for that? Like, how does the company say or address that, right? Well, maybe we don't need you to do more in this department. Can you do more over here? But that's all up to the company. The company doesn't have to accommodate everything that you're willing to do. But you want to make sure that what it is that you love to do is included in the corporation, at the best of your capacity. But we don't put it all on the corporation. We also want to put it on the individual for accountability too. But if this slide doesn't make any sense to anybody, definitely let me know in the chat, and we'll circle back around and give more details later if we have time.
Awesome. And so from that, we start to establish the case for DEI. So when we look at the heart, right, it's all about the acceptance, right? And so the energy you put into not being yourself takes away that energy from your work. So when you have people who can't show up and be their authentic selves, there's not a safe space psychologically for them, then they're not going to be able to trust the organization. They're not going to give their best, right? If you're in this state of fear or feeling like threatened or unsafe, right? You're operating at that Maslow's, that lowest level where you're not safe, right? And you have to have that before you can move further up to reach self-actualization. So we have to appeal to our hearts, because when we look at DE&I, people want to be accepted. They want to know that as an organization I'm being a part of, I'm not losing my identity or having to hide who I am, that I am unique and I have something special to contribute that will further the mission, further the success of the organization. And I'm accepted for that and valued, right? So next we look at the understanding, right? That's the club, right? And that understanding is saying, do I understand that D&I is going to reduce the cost and increase our profits? It's going to capture some unrealized opportunities that maybe I didn't see as a leader because of a bias, right? Or I'm looking always to one person for something. So do we have an understanding, right, of the potential that is there in our organization if we were to embrace DEI? The access and pathway to equality. We all want to treat everybody the same, but the equity is how we get there, right? The empathy, understanding where people are, what resources they need to reach success. And that looks different from person to person. It's going to increase our better performance and output from people. And when we work in more diverse teams, right, and we understand the value, we're building that value there, that there's more creativity and innovation. So the case for DEI is there. But then we need to appeal to our diamond people who are all about values, which is a large portion of the workforce, the millennials, the Gen Zers. They are all about, I don't care if you pay me, a 6-figure income, if I am not somewhere where I feel valued, where my values align with the organization, I don't want to be there regardless of how much I'm being paid, right? And so they're all about belonging. They want to be included in the organization, that culture, right? If you look at cultures in the workplace and the leadership and how CEOs have been removed from because their values and what they're doing is not aligned, right? And so people want to be accepted for who they are, valued for their gifts and talents, trust that the leadership is going to do what's right. They want to see diversity across the organization. And that's not just gender, race, that's lived experience. That's diversity and thought, right? Because those make the teams that are going to be more innovative, creativity, accepting, right? And they want leadership to want the same for everybody, that we all want our employees to succeed, but we may need to set them up with different supports in order for them to achieve, because there are so many different personalities and human experiences. And then lastly, the accountability, right? When we look at the case for DEI, you can look at the EEOC. They accepted almost 70,000 charges of discrimination, nearly $440 million, right? For victims of discrimination. And the top three things that those cases were about were retaliation, right? So someone retaliating against someone, and that fear, disability, right? Accessibility. We're not thinking about who's at the table, but who's not at the table, right? So that we can create more equitable spaces for everyone whose experience doesn't match our own. And then race has been an issue as well. And so these are things that we have to confront. Just like James Baldwin said, we have to address so that we are being proactive versus reactive. Because to a spade, the accountability in the case for DEI, it's costly. And so it's better to take initiative within your organization, and you as leaders are doing that, than to wait until something happens. Shanda says she feels she's a diamond from the chart, and we're about to see where you actually fall. So that's exciting about this. It can be applied to, these universal truths can be applied to not just the organization, but the family structure, our school structure, and relationships. And so it's important work for all around. And so I want you to take a minute to assess. Let's talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Very bottom level, you have to satisfy that before you can reach the next level, and ultimately self-actualization. The road to equity, we look at the 5 C's, provide an assessment, and see where we need to focus based on where you're at, the work that you have done, and where you want to go, and provide you those resources to get you there. So we have to start at that very bottom, confronting our own personal bias, our own of identity, who we are, who we're not, understand our experience, but also the experience of others. And so that takes some work, right? The next is create. How do we create those opportunities to build these meaningful relationships where everybody feels a part of the team? Their story is heard. Once we know their story, we can start collaborating, right? Through our content, through our organization, ensuring that people's stories are showing up, right? That they feel part of the organization. That's that love and belonging that we all desire, right? In every aspect of our life. And so we want the same in our organization. And then DEI helps us achieve that. And then we want to see what that looks like to commit, building that confidence and consistency. We can't just do this at the beginning of the year or create a plan and not do anything with it. We've got to show people that we're committed to this work, that there's value, there's accountability, there's understanding, and there's an interest, and we're invested. And once there, we reach the self-actualization of our organization because we've celebrated the people who are part of the organization, because that they carry out the culture of the organization. And we are able to treat each person with the equality, but also with the equity piece, the support, the resources they need to achieve and celebrate in that success together. So on the 5 C's, we assess that, we dive deeper. And today we're going to dive deeper as well so that you can start to identify your own self-awareness and how this will look like on your organization. So looking at our goal, we're going to come from a place from Arthur Chan, where he said, diversity is a fact, equity is a choice, inclusion is an action, and belonging is the outcome. And so that's going to navigate us on our road to equity so that all hands can be on deck. So the first phase we want to highlight is identify, right? How do we define what DEI is so that people can understand it? So we have to remember diversity is everywhere. Do we know ourselves, right? And this includes that word, that bad B word, bias, right? Sometimes we look at that word and we feel like it's uncomfortable, right? But the real truth is that we all have them, no matter who we are, how we look, our background, no one is immune from a blind spot, right? And so some of them are unconscious and others are conscious. But if we go forward knowing that we have diversity in people, perspectives, positions, and lived experiences, we can use that information to inform us that each of us are going to experience the world differently because of that. And so that's going to tell us a story. Where is the diversity within your organization? Is it on a surface level, right? And what we see? Or have we dug deep and got to know the diversity that lies beneath the cultural iceberg, right? Seeing that each person is unique, they have something to share, a talent, right? A story, an impact, a contribution. And so we have to ask ourselves, who's at the table? Who's not at the table? Who's holding the cards and who may not be holding cards, right? Because we all are dealt a hand, but how are we using it to further growth, learning, exploration, and discovery, and curiosity about the world around us?
Yeah, that was amazing. So leading us into, do you know who you're dealing with? We use these terminologies, just at random, like, oh, I don't know who I'm dealing with at work or at home or, at school. And so with the cards, we're able to, delve deeper into those biases. Like hearts are different, like they are wired different than hearts. And I mean, hearts are wired differently than clubs and diamonds and spades. And so what I love about the cards though is it's just divided into 4 suits. So it's not like, so complicated. You just need a birthday to figure out who it is. You don't have to ask like a million questions to try to figure out the obvious, the thing that you felt. Your feelings are obvious. What you hear people say, I was always taught to hear people, listen. If someone tells you their truth, listen, believe it, and, you can see what a person values and what they're interested in by what they do. So here now we have this modality that will show you, I don't know if that works, yeah. That would show you the 4 types of people at core and, take a lot of the mystery and the guesswork right up front. So you don't have to really be, trying to figure it out for months and years working with someone. You can figure it out just off their birthday. And with this, I want to introduce you guys to a quick activity on how to find your birth card. And no, Shanda, you said you feel like you might be a diamond, but we're going to do some math. And I want you guys to like really participate to figure out your card. If you don't, if you feel like, this is something that goes against your religion or you're like, you know what, I don't want to do that. That's okay. You're fine. But with the cards, it's just another way of identifying, our biases, our gifts, our weaknesses, our strengths in the workplace. And so we're going to go ahead and start with the first step on how to find your birth card. So step 1, just find the month in which you were born, and the number next to it lets you know which month it is, like, in order 1 through 12. And we're going to times that by 2. So for example, if you were born in March, say your birthday's in March, that's the 3rd month. So we're going to take 3 and we're going to multiply that by 2 and we're going to get 6. So if you guys are going to participate, go ahead and put that first step 1 into the chat. 4, okay. So we have a 4, I'm going to play 2. We have a 10. All right, we have an 8 and we have a 6. Another 8 and a 12. What do you say? Linnea, yours is 20? No, it isn't. Oh, yeah. Okay, I get it. You multiply. And let's see. So we're going to go to step 2. This is good. Let's see if it'll change. All right, so we're going to take that number, right? The sum, and we're going to add that to the day that you were born. So, for example, say you're in March, right? You already have 6. We already did 3 times 2. And you're born on the 21st. So we're going to take 6 plus 21. So the number that you have plus the day that you were born. And go ahead and drop that number in the box. So 16, 9, okay. Another 16, 43. All right, this is good. Thank you guys for participating. This is good. All right, 43. And what we're going to do is go to step 3. 14. So step 3, we're going to subtract this number from 55. So that number that you just put, subtract that from 55. And then put the sum there. And we'll wait. So 39, we have a 41, 46, 39. Oh, wow. Okay, so this is good. So now we're going to look this card up by the solar value so we can get one step closer to who we're dealing with and who we are, right? And this is the solar value chart. So what you do is just find a number next to the card. So we have, let me go up here. And you can, let's see, I think it started at Esther, oh no, Linnea 43. Is that what you got? So 39, yes, you're a king of diamonds. All right. And how often do we meet a woman who's a king, right? It's really going to make some of the guys upset to find out. We usually find out that guys are queens or, you know, different cards. And they all expect to be kings. Isn't that funny? King of diamonds for you too. Wow, Shanda. So Shanda's a king of diamonds, see? And look, and you guys came from different zodiac signs. So yeah, so you guys go ahead and add your card here if you guys know. So we have 2 king of diamonds. We have a 7 of spades. Rhonda, I'm a 6 of spades. So we have 2 spades, 2 diamonds. Esther, you're a diamond. Let's see, 21. So 8 of diamonds. Wow, very powerful. So we have a 7 of spades. We have an 8 of diamond. Linnea, I see 12. So you're Queen of Hearts. And we'll go ahead and break that down. The 2 of spades for Shari. So technically, and I'll go ahead and break this down too, because hearts are typically like young and vibrant energetically, right? So these are people who like to have fun, they like to socialize, they want to play. And so you're working with somebody who might be sensitive to feelings, right? They like music, they want to be comfortable in the workplace. So the environment has to be kosher. Do we have any clubs in here? We don't have any clubs. Clubs are the mentalist, right? So we want to read the, clubs are the people who are fun. They like to read the manual. They want to read everything from cover to cover. And so sometimes we make fun of those people, but we shouldn't, right? These are some of those quirks that people are like, oh my gosh, I don't know if people are going to like that I like to read, or understand everything. So we might hold back from asking questions, right? And the clubs are like teenagers, right? They want to learn, they want to have fun. It's like summertime all the time. We don't even have any in the room. So yeah. Diamonds have predominated. We have an 8 of diamond and we have 2 king of diamonds. Diamonds are all about the value, right? We want to trust it. We want to believe it. We want to value it and we want to respect it. We also want to be respected, right? And so they're like the adults. They were adults when they were kids. So you have a child who's a diamond and now this diamond is in a family where maybe the mother or the father is a heart and they're young, and you're like, mom, grow up, dad, grow up. Diamonds are the kid or the child that's saying, mom, grow up. And so you can see this behavior also in the workplace. Why aren't people more responsible? Shouldn't they get it? No, because you see the king of diamonds is the highest suit of value. So you guys trust more, right? And then Linnea, you have that heart and it's one of the bigger hearts, right? So you love more, you care more. Whereas, clubs and diamonds might be a little bit insensitive in a workplace because it's like, put your feelings away, The diamonds is like, where's the money at? Where's the responsibility? Where's the respect? And if you're dealing with a spade, these are the old people. We are all about service. We're about getting the work done, seeing it through. We care about the integrity, right? The morals. We'll take some respect, but am I doing the right thing? So people who don't care about doing the right thing might take problem with people who are spades, because spades are like, it's not done right. And a heart or a club might say, yeah, I read it, I like it, but a spade is like, but you're not doing it. So now we have these different values and, energies that we're bringing into the workplace that may not be accepted by our bosses or anybody who's in charge, or the opposite sex, who might say, you're a woman. Why do you have so much power? Oh, because I'm a king. I can't help, that's the day I was born. Those are the numbers. It's the hand that I was dealt, or that's one of the cards that you guys are dealt. So, but yeah, so thank you guys for participating and finding out what your card is. And this, now we kind of got to know each other a little bit better just off of a birthday. We didn't have to ask a million questions, and it was just like that. And I hope you guys agree, or find that maybe you're similar to this, or maybe this matter, but let me know in the comment area. And so hearts, beyond race, gender, sex, etc., they care about the relationships. They care about what makes them feel good, right? Clubs, people, these are your employees who are going to be interested in learning and competing with or helping other people. And so instead of having this expectation that they're not going to compete with you, or they're not going to want more information, just expect that they will. And diamonds, they want to achieve the goals. They're they want, they're here for the status. They want to climb the ladder. They love a good challenge, right? And in spades, we want to get to know the breadth of things. We want to find pleasure and discovery and the purpose the company serves in society. Like, is my contribution worth it? Can I do this? And so that right there is just one, we haven't even chipped into the whole hand that you were dealt, but just based on this, you can see that there is diversity beyond skin color. See, you can have a diamond, a king of diamonds in your, in your establishment, who is a man. Oh, what happened here? Oh, you have a man king of diamonds there. You have a female. You can have, based on the birthday, and it really wouldn't matter. You don't have to look at their skin color or their gender, because now we can look at, can this person carry out this task? I need someone who's a leader. I need a king, right? Or I need a spade, or I need somebody who can do something, right? So we can have an imbalance. We can have more hearts in the workplace than we do people who are going to read and do. And that could bring an imbalance, and we don't really want that, right? That makes for kind of a unbalanced environment. And then, so what we want is, to work in an environment where my feelings are heard. We have somebody there to kind of cheer me up if I'm down. We have somebody who's going to talk to me, and people who know how to express these 4 Cs intelligently, right? So can they express their feelings? Can they hear and receive my feelings? Can they talk to me right on the club level? Do they value me? Do they respect my time? Or do they just take my time? Or am I getting paid right? That's all in a diamond category. And the spade, am I respected with what I do? Do people appreciate what I've done, or my contribution? So yeah, I forget what this is. Oh yeah, so your ability to have self-awareness will also help your employer, right? So we want to hire people who are self-aware. They have an identity prior to coming into the workforce, right? Looking for you to give them an identity. We want you to have knowledge of yourself before you go into the workplace, and then we stick it to the HR department to understand us better than we understand ourselves, right? And we want to feel our self-worth before we go again to HR. They're not paying me what I'm worth. Do you know what your value is? Do you know what you signed up for? Right? So we can kind of keep some balance there. And then self-control. Like, are you really aware of how you act, and can you take accountability for who you are and who you're trying to be before coming into the workforce and suggesting that HR comply with you? Right? So even though DE&I is for the diversity, but we also have to understand the company's boundaries and our own boundaries. But, believe it or not, a lot of people don't have that self-awareness. And so HR is working overtime you know, between corporate and personal to try to help everybody play their cards right. And so I know I'm kind of breezing through this because I'm looking at the time, but that's me as a spade looking at my diamonds like, okay. So corporate awareness though, are the employees comfortable with the goal of the company, right? Even like the establishment of your company has a birthday. What day did I establish my business on, right? So that business carries its energy, and your employees may not be compatible with the energy of the organization that you've created. So this is something that we help with, figuring out the day that the company was established. Every entity has energy, right? Is the corporate, it's like going into a relationship, right? So you have you as an individual. Are your cards compatible with the goal of the company? That's on the heart level, right? On the club level, how well do your employees understand the goal and its importance to the company? Like, is it communicated? You know, is it understandable? Is it intelligent? Does it, um, you know, does your company foster like a relationship with your employees' level of intelligence? Is there room for growth or room for a better understanding? And then on the diamond level, right? Do we have the resources as a company, right? And as a company, do we have the resources and the training to facilitate development and the skills, you know, that can help the company achieve the goal? So the diamond, like I said, it's more than money. It's about the trust, it's the belief, it's about the ability, and again, the skills that are needed to help push the corporate or the corporation to its goal, to reach its goal, right? And then on a spade level, do the employees feel capable and safe carrying out the task of the company? You know, do they feel like they are competent, that they can do it? Right. I know it's kind of redundant. We kind of went over it a couple of times, but we want to make sure these are the four core. It's just that simple. Do I feel it? Do I understand it? Do I value it, trust it, right? And can I do it? And we want to make sure that we incorporate like everybody's level to do that. And I know we only talked about a couple of cards here. And remember, you're not a card, you're a human. But we just say card because it's like an identification number or an employee badge, just to kind of identify who has this strength, this personality. But yeah, and there are 52 different type of people, basic personalities that are working together. And we all have our natural energies that we are told to suppress when we come into the physical realm, right? So when you are out in the mundane and dealing with other people, everything is chaotic, everything's out of order, everybody feels it. So you're not alone in feeling that. Whereas in a natural, everything is in order. In a perfect world, this one, I don't know. Yeah, in a perfect world, everybody has a place, everybody's in order, everybody has a position and they're influenced, but this is ironically the world that we live in, right? So everybody's out of place, misplaced, and when we go into our corporation, we often feel mispositioned there too. And so the goal of our program is to help the person who's coming from a family who probably didn't ever feel included in family, right? They go to school and they're still not included, and they go into the workplace and they still don't, you know, they still don't feel included, right? So we're trying to reach that person and let them know that there is diversity here. And yeah, everybody's different. So even in your family, like I encourage you guys to do the math, go home and figure out who's in your family. Your mom might be a heart, your dad might be a diamond, you know, you're a club. How do I relate to them? Do I feel included there? Is my family seen at home diverse before I go into the workplace and look for this diversity? It might be the first time I meet a spade, right? Is when I go into work and it's like, wait a minute, that's a big personality right there. Or this person's bullying me, but let's take time to really understand the people that we grew up with. Who did we go to school with? How do we relate to them? How do they relate to me? But I think we have, as a society, skipped so many parts. We don't know what we're made of, what we're capable of, what we believe, what we like to feel. We're just, you know, thrown into a family, you know. Our parents are just, like alien spaceships. They're just portals. You know, now we're here. Do they know what to do with us? And then we go to school and the teachers may not know what to do with us, but this is a tool that can help us to have that intimacy and create the inclusion that spans beyond skin color, age, gender, race, all of that, right? And so I know these slides don't have many words on it, but what if our organization just have diamonds, right? We're just hiring people who care about the money and that, right? So our employee becomes this kind of like dead environment that these people only think about money. I don't feel like I'm included there. They care about money and they don't care how it's going to get done. These people may care, but how diverse is this? Is not really diverse. I mean, we're looking at, if we just look at this and say, oh, there's a woman of color, there's a man of color, there's another man, there's a woman. So this looks diverse, but if we look deeper below the surface, we can see that all these people are the same. They all have the same resume. They all graduated from the same school. They all have the same background, right? They're all diamonds. So we want to have some diversity in our organization. You know, we have somebody who cares about the environment, and it just makes for a very balanced place. Somebody who understands, the value of the company, and somebody who's willing to do the work, right? And they will love it. Like if we position people where they like have a great affinity, then we would, just not have so many people quietly quitting, right? So and that's just a little piece of what the playing cards can help inside of a company. And like this is what I've been doing for 20 years. And Karen is in, corporate, and I come from far away from corporate, but here we are merging. This is like about as diverse as it gets, we're including two different philosophies, backgrounds, and bringing it together to identify that. So I'm going to hand it over to Karen to take us into phase one of identity. And I want to thank you guys again for participating in just that little bit.
Yeah, that was awesome. So as a King of Diamonds, it's so important just being equipped with this awareness, because you can see what maybe hidden strengths that you didn't know about, or kind of looking and saying, oh, that's why I'm, I drive in this situation, and I'm a leader and I'm a go-getter, or I like things done a certain way. So it helps you to understand, especially going into organizations where you're having to work or partner with people, and even now remotely building those relationships, even tougher. And so when we strip all of those differences away, we have to see, is there anything left? What our similarities and differences look like, right? So we have to get beyond just the surface level, but understanding each other and ourselves deeper, right? What's below that, beyond age, and what's our values and what's our philosophy. And so that's why it's so important to define DEI within your organization, to ensure that people know what it encompasses, what it is, what the goal is, the purpose, and what it is not, so that you direct the narrative on how you can leverage DEI within your organization. So diversity as a fact. So when we look at that, we have to look at our bias, right? And so I want us to watch this short video, and let's see where we can identify some bias there and how they handled it.
Janet and Bill were working on a sales presentation for their team. During their time together, Janet showed Bill the figures she came up. Janet and Bill were working on a sales presentation for their team. During their time together, Janet showed Bill the figures she came up.
Oh, I don't know. Not sure, but we will. We'll still go over that. But she showed him the figures, and her math was off. And he made a comment that most women are not as well as at math as men. She took offense to that comment, and really confronted him and said, that was a very sexist thing to say. Because I made one minor mistake, that shouldn't be held against me, or to all women that they're not good at math. Anybody could have, made that simple mistake. And so that sexism there, that sometimes things happen where it's just as natural that it comes out of our mouth. We've dealt with people like this in our organization where they've said something that is off-putting, off color, and not appropriate, right? But they were not sometimes aware of that. We've approached people before and they've been surprised that people found that offensive. So the more and more that we're creating these workforces with diversity, we're creating these safe spaces where people are feeling safe enough to say, hey, this bothers me and this is offensive, or I took offense to that. And so that does share kind of the measurable advances we are making, but nonetheless, we have to be aware of it, not only our bias, but others, the affinity bias, people who are like us, hiring in our own image, right? Just like she said, having a workforce where everybody is the same because we're hiring a reflection of ourselves. Name bias, there's been lots of studies where people have sent in resumes and depending on the name, they've gotten a call back. And there's stereotypes that go into that. Gender bias, ageism. There are 3 different generations working right now in the workplace. And so imagine just those generation gaps and challenges that are present alone with different people and their approaches. How can we leverage that, right? And then looking at prototype, halo horns, and adultification. All of those things, those bias, impact the workplace in a negative way. So when we look at, like Fatima said, women can be leaders too, and are also capable of playing roles that have been privileged to be held by men traditionally. So we have to look again below the surface at who our people are. And so a couple of ways you can identify. Get real about your blind spots. Recognize we all have them. Explore those potential impacts. We've all driven home, but forgot every stop and turn. That's how our bias works. We just arrive at the outcome and we're like, oh, I didn't mean that. I wasn't sure. I didn't know I did that. We were just unconsciously going through the motions. Then you have to act with intention and learn to change the outcome. And what are some reflection questions, Fatima, for that?
Well, so who are your people, right? Who are your people? Not just, because I had a conversation with one of my brothers, like, I have a couple of Black people, I have a couple of white and this and that. And I'm like, that's to the extent that he knew his people, right? That he worked with. But who are your people before you give them a title, before you give them a position and a badge? And then how you can use this tool with the cards to figure out who your people are, with their permission, of course. And then how can you leverage diversity within your organization? Like, how many hearts do I really need? How many clubs do I need? How many diamonds? How many spades to carry out the task? So those are just some things to reflect on.
Yes. And as we move into phase 2, that's developing your DEI strategy, which most of you have begun processing and implementing. So if we now understand diversity and acknowledge that all of us have differences in thought, backgrounds, culture, lived experiences, that will inform how we behave and how we approach others, especially when it comes to D&I. It's helping people see that we're all fundamentally connected and that equity, setting people up for what they need to be successful, eliminating barriers that have systemically been in the way. Those are things that empathy is now in action because I'm understanding the person at the table. And now I'm taking action because I know better now, so we do better. And we have to stop looking at things as there's a deficit in the people versus the policy. Instead of first blaming the people, why they weren't able to make that deadline, why it's such a challenge working in groups as a team. We have to look at maybe there's a deficit in our policy and the culture we've created versus the people. And maybe we haven't made it conducive for what we're asking of our employees. So the people are going to tell a story. And so from there, you're being informed of how to approach it. And now you can make that choice. You know what people need to be set up for success, what's in their way, what's counterproductive. You can start making a choice to do better, changing policy, and creating a seat at the table for everybody. And so I love this quote. Another way of looking at equity is that when a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, right? Not the flower.
Yeah.
So looking at, is there enough soil, sunlight, water for that flower to produce that beautiful bloom, right? Or do we need to reassess where we're at? So a couple of ways you can inform. How do you do that? Conduct these individual conferences. Go ahead, Fatima.
Yeah, no, I didn't know which one I was going to do. So yeah, you can conduct these individual conferences and ask about your interest, your employees' interests. Ask them if they're clear, if they understand. Like, how interested were you in this task that we just had you do? And were you clear? Were the instructions clear? Ask about the resources and the support that's needed. Like, did you need anything, or did you feel like you could have used more of something else to get this done? And then ask them to evaluate their experience. Like, how did you feel about it? You did it. How do you think you did? Is there any room for improvement or anything like that? So those are some ways that we can have like individual conferences and asking those questions in accordance to the suits and reflection.
Yeah, so based on your own identity, think about what are some barriers you face? What are some barriers that other people who don't share those same identities may face? Do we need to seek out their voice? And how can leaders support employees' growth? And how does that impact the overall organization? So phase 3 moves into include. We've got to determine the stakes now and the resources. So now if we understand equity, we've got to nurture and support a culture of inclusion. So equity is now an action. It has to be intentional. It's not enough for us to see the diversity, but what are we doing to actually engage and take action so that everybody is seen, valued, and heard? So looking at our intention versus not at all, right? We have to be intentional, because if not, we do more harm than healing and helping. So what's the culture of our organization? Remember, the culture of any organization is carried out by the people of that organization. So if you don't know your people, you don't know what they need, you really can't see how to include them to ensure that they feel valued for who they are, that they can express themselves authentically and unapologetically, but in a professional and way that their identity remains whole, right? And when people are safe to feel that authenticity, everyone wins. They're able to give more of themselves. The organization has those more creative ideas, right? And everybody benefits. So we've got to develop this long-term sustainable vision that DEI is in every area of our organization. It's not one person's job or role, but it's a shared duty, right? A shared load, because ultimately our organization will tell a story. And what story do we want our organization to tell? Is it one where it's all about talking the talk, but not walking the walk? Are you practicing what you're preaching? Are we ensuring that people have a voice at the table? So we have to constantly reflect and make sure that we're being inclusive. So think about what inclusion looks like. What does it sound like in your organization? What does it feel like? Because it's going to appeal differently to each of those, right? So the hearts, the clubs, the spade, the diamond, what does it feel like? Do I understand it? And what does understanding sound like? What does understanding feel like? What does valuing something look like? Does that mean there's so much diversity awareness in this month? There's breast cancer awareness month. Are some of your employees connected to that? Do they share a story? Could you highlight that in your organization? It's also global awareness a month as well, global diversity awareness month. It's Hispanic Heritage Month. Are you celebrating the contributions, the achievements, the history, and just the rich overall experience of the Hispanic culture, not only in America, but in your organization, right? Do people see that, feel that? And what does that look like, right? And so when we include people, and we're going to share this resource, it's in the participant guide on page 4. They'll also email it out to you, but it's a process. It's looking at awareness, action, and accountability. Asking your question every time you have people at the table. Refer to this decision-making tool so that all hands are on deck, that you're walking through that process when you make a decision to determine who are our stakeholders, how will they be impacted, has everybody been heard, what more information do we need to seek out. So it's a great handy checklist for you, as this is something I always tell teams, laminate it. Every time you are in a meeting, have it on that table so that you can visually walk through that process to ensure you're more inclusive. And then you're going to reflect, what's the culture of your organization, right? How will you create that, right? And what are you doing to inspire your organization? So when we look at that, how they will implement. So that's where your next session will be, more focused on the implementation, taking action, because the hearts, when you implement DEI, yeah, go ahead, Fatima.
Yeah, no, we're wrapping it up too, but we have greater compassion when we implement it. We'll see more communication, intelligence, and people expressing, what they know intelligently. We also will see a restoration of values. Our people are valuable. They're not withdrawing anymore. Now we have more integrity and optimization inside of our organization. So yeah, I think Lynera wants to use the last few minutes here. I don't know how much time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. To hear just
the outcome.
So the outcome, yep, our belonging. So when we implement D&I, there's more collaboration, performance, and innovation. So with this short video, this is an example of how to implement and give you an idea, and we'll close with this.
Okay.
Monica called a team meeting and said, guys, I think we need to work to be more culturally aware with our colleagues. And Jason brought up the idea.
What is happening with our videos today? I apologize for that. But what essentially she did is she called a meeting, talked about how they can be more culturally diverse, and they had conversations about bringing in different people's stories every month, highlighting the culture and the people that are part of that organization. So as a team, they were able to come up with that. So as you implement your plan in the next phase, which you'll be working on at the next session, is what you're doing working, and how will you know that in your strategic plan? So it's not enough to make a plan, but making sure it is working in our favor. So as you continue, we thank you for being a part of this conversation today. Think about one thing you plan to get going, one thing you want to think differently about doing that may not be working or counterproductive, or just a new strategy you want to try. And then think about one thing you plan to stop doing, or now that you've identified it, how will you move forward? Because in DEI, the goal is not perfection. It's just progress. Every day, doing a little bit to chip away at the inequities that plague organizations, that limit productivity, and really curve people's ability to thrive and be their best selves. So thank you so much for this opportunity. We ended right on time, 12:30. I hope this has been an educational and inspirational opportunity for you to activate your knowledge in your organization to set people up for success. And remember that everybody holds cards, and we need all hands on deck, and to ensure that DEI is a priority and it's done with intention. Fatima?
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having us and participating. Thank you guys for the comments too.
Well, thank you so much, Karen and Fatima. We really appreciate your insights and the information that you shared today. Definitely a very informative session, really, really interesting stuff. And we really appreciate it. For the participants, you will receive the participant guide via email, so stay tuned for that, but it is still available in the chat. And just a quick few reminders about our next session, open to registrants and guests at a cost. DEIA, from strategic planning to plan and action, October 25th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So please mark your calendars and be prepared once the registration is sent out. And November 2nd, Graduate School USA will be hosting us for a networking event. So registration for this event is actually already available on our website. We encourage you to register. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Have a great day and take care. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.